What's going on, everyone? Chris with Journals Comics, and this is Friday Night Live. We got some folks already in the house. We're gonna have an awesome show tonight. Let me say what's up to. We got X11. Right on, absolutely. Tony, Jacob's hanging out. What's going on, Jacob? Peter, Serge, Marvel Goddess, BBB Hardcore. Let's see. Brandon's hanging out. What's going on, Brandon? All right, guys. Man, it's been a couple weeks. Smile, friend. What's going on, Spider Dude? It's been a couple weeks. I took last Friday off. Now, I didn't take it completely off. I still worked my day job, and I still released a video that day, although I filmed it the day before. But it was nice to have, a Friday evening to relax. But I'm back here the week before that, we had a real brief show, but it was just a prelude into my whatnot sale that was going on that night. So very happy to be back here tonight with a specific talking point. And all of you that are here probably saw, is it a good or a bad time to buy comics? It's not a black and white question. We're going to dive into that. Of course, we're going to talk about some updates with the channel and some things happening right now before we get into the topic of discussion. And of course, we're going to let some more folks come in as well. Ghost Jump, what's going on? Caleb. Let's see. We have a few things going on still that I want to address. First and foremost, my 10K giveaways are still happening. We have one video that's up right now. No, is it just one? I believe it's just one that's up right now that a winner has not been picked for. So you guys could go check out those videos and see what that is. That is the EGS Slabbed Warlock in the Infinity Watch book. So that one's still running. And we have two grand prizes. The grand prize that's going to be given away in video form. So look out for some upcoming videos, probably next week, where we're going to be giving away this beautiful Spectacular Spider-Man 64 first appearance of Cloak and Dagger. Something's going on. Hold on, folks. There we go. That looks a little better, right? There. Okay. This is the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger, signed by Ed Hannigan in the 9.6 CGC Signature Series. So we're going to have some videos probably going up next week where you're going to need to watch that video, comment on that video, and of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell, all those good things. So if you guys are just joining for the first time, I'm here making content almost every single day, and we still have some prizes to give away. So be on the lookout for those. Vipers in the house. All right, so that's that. So be on the lookout for that. Now, we also have another grand prize that's going to be coming up in a couple weeks, which is going to be the last 10K prize of all the 10K prizes that we've been giving out. And that is a $150 gift card to A1 Comics. But we are going to give that away live. I will have more details soon. That will not be in a video. That's going to be a live giveaway. So I'm really hoping to get a lot of people live, most likely on a Friday Night Live show. But again, I will keep you all posted. All right. So some other giveaways. I have my March Patreon giveaway for all my Patreon members. We're going to be giving away this Thor #5, the third print, first appearance of Black Winter, with this awesome Gwenom art print. So those are going to be given away. We're going to do a randomizer raffle pull for all of my Patreon members for supporting me. So big shout out to all of you. And I am going to be doing a YouTube channel member giveaway as well. I just haven't picked out a prize yet, but I'll pick something nice out for you guys that are members of the channel via YouTube. I know we got a couple of you guys hanging out tonight. Tony, Brandon, EW. Oh, what's up, EW, by the way? So yeah, those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Now, we also we don't have a comic book canon this Sunday. We are taking the weekend off from the canon. We're going to have another show next Sunday where we are going to continue our 1K subscriber giveaway contests as well there. And we're going to have special guest Saul Marshall, good friend of the channel, both channels, because he donated a book to give away. And we're going to be giving that book away next week. And he's going to join us to help make that happen. So I hope everyone is subscribed to Comic Book Canon. That link is in the description below. Kyle, what's going on, Kyle? Okay, what else? What else we got? What else we got? I believe, let's see, is Jacob's in the house? Jacob, you're here, right, Jacob? I believe, Trev, what's going on, Trev? Shipping Guru. Let's see, Jacob, weren't you the winner? Oh, by the way, guys, check out this amazing Black Panther print. Big shout out to Comic Tom for including that in the mystery mailboxes. I'm not giving this away. This is mine. This is all mine. Jacob, didn't you win this bad boy right here in last week's Comic Book Canon giveaway contest? Yeah, buddy. I saw that. You changed your name, but I recognize the thumbnail. So, yeah, so congrats there. Big shout out to Comic Aussie again for donating this. And, of course, big shout out to Tony Trombetta and EGS for hooking up the awesome EGS custom slab signed by Patrick Gleason. Look at that. So I got some shipments to still go out early next week. We'll make that happen. All right. Let's see. One more thing before we get into the topic of discussion. And again, welcome, folks. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We are talking about all the giveaways that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks on both this channel and the Comic Book Canon channel. And, of course, I make content almost every single day. Now, one last thing before we get into the topic of discussion. And that's what's happening 1 week from today. And that is my next Whatnot live sale, folks. So we're going to pull up my phone here. So if you guys don't have the Whatnot app yet, I highly recommend that you guys download it. If you haven't downloaded it, there is a link in the description. If you use that link to download and sign up, you will get $10 off of your first Whatnot purchase. And that can be from anybody. It doesn't have to be from me, but you have to use that link in order to get that $10 off. But if you go into the Whatnot app, right, and you search for Journos Comics, like right there, look at that, right there, right, Journos Comics, no underscore. You find me, you find my profile, you know, you'll see my name and my little my logo. And if you go to sales, upcoming or shows, you'll see the thumbnail for the new show. And you can click on the thumbnail and you'll hear me talking, but you can turn the volume down. What is going on, Whatnot World? Christopher Chernov's comment. I'm going to turn the volume down there, see? And you'll see me showing off some books. You see that little tag right there? It says 115 right now. If you click that tag, you'll see my products. Auction products, there's a few. But if you click buy it now right there, buy it now, you'll see all of these items. Some of them have pictures. I'm trying to get pictures on more of my listings. All of this stuff is available for a buy it now before it goes live. And when it goes live, it goes to auction, right? So I have the specifics, the picture. I got the condition. You know, second appearance of Madam Web is up there right now in a very fine near mint. You guys could get that for $19 right now if you go buy it now. But if it doesn't sell and comes Friday and I pull it out and I auction it off, maybe, you know, a $5 starting bid, you know, maybe it'll bid up to a cheaper price. Maybe it'll bid above the $19 mark. So that's your guys' way of being able to secure some books before they go to auction when we're live. And the one thing that I do guarantee with all of my sticker prices for buy it now, I will beat the major online retailers like Midtown and mycomicshop.com. Although I love mycomicshop.com, That's why I use them too, is an example of how I price my books. First off, I'm very conservative with my grading. So if I have a book here, let's see, let's pick one out. Let's pick one out. Let's find all right, let's find one that's been kind of hot due to a little bit of spec right here. This is Night Stalkers #1, Rise of the Midnight Suns tie-in. This is a near mint minus 9.2. So I have this for $5. So that means if I went to Midtown or my comic shop and their near mint minus was selling for $7 or $6, I'm marking it down. And I got it at $5. So that's what I do. I am always doing my research and making sure that I'm offering the lowest price available for, compared to all these retailers. So, all right, now, again, folks, I got a lot of stuff. I got lots. I got bundles. We got some Bronze Age Ghost Rider. We got a House of Mystery 10-cent lot up for sale. We got some Hulk. Lots of stuff. Fantastic Four, of course. Some Spidey, Avengers. I got a whole long box here, so I hope to see all of you guys there next Friday. The live auction starts at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. That's 9:30 Eastern. Fat Dad, what's going on, Fat Dad? And yeah, it's going to be an awesome show, folks. All right, Journos Comics on the Whatnot app. Marvel Goddess, thank you so much for the super sticker. All right, everyone. Oh, let me show you guys one more thing that I found. I'm not too familiar with this. Spawn Fan Edition #1 that came out in 96. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but any Spawn fans, this is going to be going up. It's a VF Plus 8.5. So, yeah, I just want to show that off. I thought it was really cool. All right, everyone. We have a topic of discussion to talk about tonight. And that is it a good or a bad time to buy comics? I could have titled this video, "Is it a good time?" and just left it at that, or I could have said, "Is it a bad time?" But I decided to ask the question of either or, right? Now, before I start talking about how I feel on this, let me see what you guys have to say in the comments really quick. What do you guys think? It could be a short yes or no. You can add some context. Do you think it's a good time to buy comics right now? Do you think it's a bad time to buy comics right now? Maybe it's not so black and white. Let me hear what you guys have to say real quick. Great time, says Trev. Mark Lineker, what's going on, Mark? Mark says comics are always a good time. I could just say that in the video. Guys, it's always a great time to buy comics. Have a good night. See you later, right? I wouldn't be lying, essentially. I'm back like a vertebrae. I love it. I love it, man. That's some punchline stuff right there. EW, it's a good time to buy the ones you love. Caleb says, always a good time to buy comics, maybe not to make money. BBB, always a great time. Spider Dude, yes, anytime really. If you got the money, ain't that the truth? Tony says, I think it's a great time to get your comics graded. Ghost Junk, I think it's risky to invest into expensive slabs, but a perfect time to purchase cheaper books. See, this is where Ghost Junk, thank you for that, because you're adding context. And what do I say when it comes to anything, folks? No matter what we're talking about, context matters. Context always matters. Peter, it's a great time to buy most comics and a bad time for a few. Okay, okay. Buy what? Who said that? Buy what? I want to see that. Buy what makes you happy, BBB. That absolutely. Let's see. Okay, cool. Good stuff. Serge says it's a good time. Priorities do come first. And Serge, you are absolutely correct on that. Okay, so I love everything that you guys just brought to the table. You know, some to the point answers and some context there. And nobody was wrong in their answer. because this isn't a right or wrong, question. There is a lot at stake here when asking this. Frankie, spec collectors beware. Fight the good fight. Been picking up some oldies for cheap. Bad dad, 320. Miguel G. What's going on, everyone? Okay, so we're going to talk about the good and the bad, folks, because that's what we're really looking at right now. And I think it's always like that. It's never black and white. Even maybe even going back to the 70s or 80s, 90s, 2000s, at any point in time, there's always two sides to every coin. But when looking at the comic book market in industry right now for collectors, the one thing that I would say is it is a good time to buy, but we have to be cautious. And it all depends on who you are as a collector and why you are buying comic books. So we got to put that out there first and foremost. So to answer this question for yourself, we need to start the groundwork. Okay. And it's going to be different for everyone, but let's start the groundwork. We're going to start fresh. We got our shovels, we got our dirt, and we're going to start building our comic book foundation for us. Okay. And you start by saying, why do you love comic books? What are you in it for? All right. And you can start saying, well, I really love comic book stories and I love reading them. I love the art. I love that I can buy a comic book and maybe it'll be worth money in the future. I love looking at older books that are already of value. And I like putting, being able to invest and put money into them because of the nostalgia, or just being a collector, or because of the return on investment that might happen. I'm diehard into speculation, and I will buy any book, new, old, fresh off the new comic book day shelf, trying to flip and make a profit. Maybe you're just a collector of collectors. You love superheroes. You love the independent genres, I should say, where they dive more farther outside of the superhero genres. All these things matter before we can answer this question. All of these things matter before we can answer the question. What's up, Dale? So once you get that fleshed out, then you look at everything specifically. And I'm going to start kind of with the soft. Woo, I got a ghost in here, guys. Lights are flickering. Woo. Oh my gosh, they're trying to communicate to me. The spirits are saying, we love comics. I'm going to start with the soft stuff, and then we're going to get into the hardball stuff. Okay. So, hang around. Let's progress into the hardball stuff by starting with this. Those that love to read comics, wow, we're really having, sorry guys. There we go. Okay. So there's two ways to look at if you're just in it to read comics. Is it a good time to buy? Two ways that I'm going to answer that. One, it's a good time to buy comics because we live in an age where there's multiple ways that you could get your hand. Oh, Serge. Yeah. Or Tupac. There's multiple ways that we could get our hands on comics and read them these days. We have such convenience as comic book readers. We have the floppy comics still, right? We might not have as many LCSs as we did 30 years ago, but we still have LCSs out there, and we do have online retailers, like mycomicshop.com. We have digital options, whether it's digital downloads or subscribing to a monthly subscription to like Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe or whatever it is, right? Comixology. We have trade paperbacks. We have omnis. We can essentially collect in so many different ways just to read a book. And that's why I say when people are like, oh, I just wanted to read and I go and the comic book is gone and I didn't put it on my pull list and now it's a hot comic and it's selling for $20. I'm pissed. Well, guess what? If you're in it just to read the story, You know, for one, you should have had it on your pull list, but go download the digital copy for a few bucks. You know, wait for the trade paperback to come out. Wait for the second print to come out. All of these things are positive. That's why it's a good time to buy right now. All right, but let's look at the other side of the coin, shall we? Let's look at the other side of the coin. It is a tough time to buy right now because of price point. Because of price point of new comic books. I was just looking at the previews orders from my comic shop last night. The new previews orders just came in. DC has so many books now starting at $7.99 and $5.99. It's absolutely crazy. Marvel has some more $4.99s now too, but still most of them are $3.99 unless they're number ones. I also noticed that some of Marvel's cover Bs and cover Cs are going for $9.99 now. But that's for collector variants, so we're just talking about people that want to read. The price point of comic books is questionable. It's very hard. And although there's inflation, yes. You know, we weren't making as much hourly per dollar, you know, back 30, 40 years ago, and stuff costs cheaper. But still, when you consider inflation, cost of goods and services is increasing drastically next to wages and earnings and what we're earning. So everything is costing more and we are earning less. This is a fact. This isn't politics. You know, this is a fact. Everything from food to gas to a new house to a new car, rent, mortgage, rent especially, taxes, property taxes, commodities, goods, services, a haircut, eating out, you know, comic book store, comic books. Everything is costing more and we're not making much more than we were. The federal minimum wage has not increased in 13 years. But yet inflation over 13 years has had an increasing percentage every single year after year. It's crazy to think about that. So while, you know, maybe minimum wage so I did a research paper for school on this 4 years ago in 2018, 50-year difference. In 1968, the minimum wage was somewhere around $1.69 or something like that, $1.75, somewhere around there. And comic books in 1968 cost 12 cents still, right? So you could say, well, comic books cost 12 cents, but people were only making $1.69, 70 something an hour, so it evens out, but it doesn't, because $1.69 or somewhere around there 50 years later in 2018 was, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head, due to inflation, 12 something an hour. So in 2018, California's minimum wage was, I believe, $11 an hour. And federal minimum wage was still what, $7.25. So people were making more on minimum wage 50 years before than they were 50 years later. Take this into consideration. Take this into consideration. And I did the math on this, folks. This isn't this is facts. Rough facts, because I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head. The cost of a new car, the average cost of a new car increased by 30%. The average cost of a new home increased by 30%. 30-something percent. The average cost of groceries increased by around 30%. So everything is increasing in value or in cost, and we're making less. That becomes a problem for when we look at things that we can spend money on that we enjoy, like comic books. You guys want to hear something? Again, this is a rough number because I don't have the exact. I still have my paper somewhere. Do you know that law school from 1968 to 2018, do you know that law schools cost for 1 year of law school. 8,000%. I'm not making that up. I am not making that up, folks. You guys can go find, don't just Google and believe everything you read. You got to go find scholarly articles, do your due diligence, find credible sources, do the math. In 50 years, law school increased by 8,000, roughly 8,000%. That's unfathomable when you think about that. So, Jesse, what's going on? Just Stuffman, what's going on? So, price point can become a problem when you ask yourself, is it a good time to buy? A lot of people don't have the expendable income like they used to. So, while I'm all about comic books, new comic books, I think the DC specifically, they're going the, quality over quantity. So we can charge more per book if we give them better quality. I still think price point becomes a problem. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here to my own point. There's previews orders. You could get them at 35% off cover price. I never pay cover price for my stuff. And there's digital. You could get a monthly membership. If you buy it for the year, I think it's only $5 a month. It comes out to $5 a month for Marvel Unlimited. And yeah, you have to wait a couple of months before you can read the new issues, but it's only $5 a month. And you get unlimited reads. If you don't mind reading digital, you can read them out on your phone, on your tablet, when you're on vacation or, hanging out at Starbucks, sitting out, whatever. Watching your kid at baseball practice, and you can pull up a tablet or a phone and read a comic book without having to drag your single issues with you. So there are these things as well. Wait for the trade paperback to come out because that'll save you money. It costs more to buy the single issues than to get the trades. So there are ways around it to save you money. So that's my take on new comic books and if it's a good time or a bad time. I just think it is always actually, let me say one more thing when it comes to new comics that isn't about price point or money. That's awesome, X11. Yeah. I actually I didn't have my college paid for, but I did win a couple scholarships. They didn't cover much, but they covered some. I do want to say one more thing before we move on to the next, is it a bad or good time to buy comics for a certain other type of collector? It's not always about money. What about the comic books themselves? Is it a good time? If you're a reader, is it a good time to buy new comic books? And I'm not going to get too much into this, folks, but I'm going to say this. There's always been good comics and there's always been bad comics. There's always been good stories and bad stories, good art and bad art. I read a decent amount of new books and there's a lot of great stories right now. There's a lot of crap too. As a Spider-Man fan, I've been reading Spider-Man constantly. I never stopped and I probably never will. But boy, is it like pulling teeth right now. It is horrendously just boring and bad. And like right now, it's all about Ben Reilly, and I could care less about Ben Reilly, who they killed like 3 different times. He came back as like this villain, and now he's all of a sudden good again. I can't. And that's another thing. I think I should do a video specifically on this, but whatever happened to continuity? Whatever happened to continuity? It's just, none of it makes sense. Not none of it. There's a lot that still is solid, like I said, but so some of it is struggling to push through, but there's a lot of great stuff out there as well. And I'll just leave it at that for right now. I will be having a show in the near future where we have a roundtable discussion, and I'm going to have 2 awesome guests, and we're going to be diving into the actual stories of modern comic books and if collectors are actually reading comic books. Stay posted for that. Okay, we're going to move on. Victor, what's going on? Now, we're going to talk about, is it a good time to buy or a bad time to buy for investors. Okay. Or should I say, I don't like to use the term investors. I think it's kind of dirty when you just say investors. Collectors that want to invest. Okay. And I'm not talking about flippers. Okay. I think flippers are always going to have people that specifically look to get their hands on books, whether they're new or old, it doesn't matter. They speculate on stuff and they collect inventory to flip for the short term. I think it's always a good time to buy, unless everyone just stopped collecting comics like that, and that's not going to necessarily happen in the foreseeable future. But what if you're just a collector that really does enjoy the investing side of comic books? So this means maybe you dabble, maybe you like to save up money and get your hands on a nice silver or bronze age key here and there. Maybe, you like going after, bronze age or copper stuff, just of your favorite characters, hoping that one day maybe you'll have a return on investment, but everything doesn't need to be a key. So we're looking at the broader spectrum of comic book collecting. And I think this is where you really have to proceed with caution. But I'm going to say something right now that's going to challenge what a lot of people probably think. I think there are a lot of people out there that think it's a very bad time to buy comics. I do. I think people are a bit jaded by, the COVID boom. And I've said this over the last couple of years, and I'll say it again. While I'm not sitting here saying, oh yeah, everyone just took their stimulus money and, unemployment money and went out and bought comics. It's not, people were struggling. People were struggling to pay bills, to keep a roof over their head. But when you take into the factor that nobody was doing anything, nobody was going to the movies, nobody was taking vacations, nobody was driving anywhere, nobody was eating out. Not only did we have, a lot of people did get, unemployment or stimulus income and whatnot, but a lot of people, they started working from home, or maybe they got their unemployment. They weren't doing anything. They weren't spending money anywhere. I wasn't driving. I didn't drive my truck once. I mean, I would drive our Toyota family SUV here and there, but I never drove my truck once for like 18 months. I filled up the tank like a week before everything shut down, and the first time I filled it up was like August or September of 2021, when I finally went back to work in person at the school. So, man, that saved me a lot of money, right? So I think a lot of people look at that and get jaded that that's not there anymore, and all this money's coming out. To an extent, just want to say what's up to a few people. GKA, Dennis, Ron B, Cristobal. No, Dennis. I know investing isn't a dirty word, but I meant I don't want it to be taken dirty as that I'm as an investor. And I didn't say investing. I said investor. Because I know there's a lot of people that like to invest in comics, but calling them an investor can take a whole other kind of, perception, if that makes sense. But JLS, what's going on? Let me get back to what I was saying. A lot of people are back to work, including myself. I'm spending money on gas now, and gas is over $6 a gallon here in California. So that's hurting my pocketbooks. It's making me not be able to buy as many comics. My our water rates recently increased. Our sewage rates recently increased. Everything continues to go up too, as well as not having as much exposable income. So this can definitely pull people out of having excess money to spend. And I think that's why you see things cooling off a little bit in the market. But not only is it just people maybe pulling money out, but we're moving our attention elsewhere, right? Now we are going back to take vacations. We are going back to eating out at a nice restaurant here and there. We are going back to baseball games and football games. All this stuff has happened in basketball games. So even a collector, maybe that collector now, instead of putting all of his or her eggs in one basket, they're diversifying again. I'm going to buy one little key this month, but next month I'm going to take my family, to the baseball game. We're going to take a little weekend trip to the mountains. Nope, no key comic that month. So it allows the supply and demand to fluctuate. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean the market's crashing, and it doesn't mean it's a bad time to buy. What that means is that it could be a better time to buy right now than it was 6 months ago. Because if less people are sitting at home, sitting on a couch, in front of a computer or a phone, and all they're doing is hanging out in live sales or going on eBay, watching YouTube videos, buying comic books, there's less attention and less demand on the books that are currently on the market. So essentially, I think it is an excellent time to buy right now. And again, forewarning, I'm not here to tell you guys to buy anything ever. You guys make your own decisions. This is my opinion, personal opinion. I think it's a decent time to buy. And just like any market when you're investing, and buy the dip, right? Well, just like they say with the stock market right now, a lot of, insiders are saying, don't buy the dip right now. This is one of those times where you might not want to buy the dip because of the uncertainty. So, sure, there's uncertainty in comic books as well. But there is something there for tangible assets. I do believe right now the tangible asset market is a much better market than many markets currently. And I'm going to be doing a video this coming week. I believe it was 2018. I cashed out some of my Starbucks stock and I bought a few key comics. About 2 years later or 3 years later, I did another video showing how the stocks did and how my comics did. I'm going to be doing another one comparing where we're at right now. And I'll tell you this. I believe I made the right decision. Taking that money out and buying comic books. Now. So, do I think it's a good time to buy comics in this sense? Yes. We've seen 20 to 30% cool off on some books, on some key books. We've seen some books still increase in value, though. And that's what makes me even more confident that the comic book market is doing just fine. Because some books are still hitting record high sales, which means people in general are still buying comics. But here's what is uncertain and where I would take caution. There are unforeseeable things, unforeseeable factors happening right now that are political and economically driven, that have nothing to do with comic books, but can affect the comic book market. And that is inflation, war, all of these things that are happening right now are hurting the average person because it's costing us more to live. And like somebody said in the beginning of the stream when I asked, and they said, I think it was Serge said, as long as your needs are taken care of or whatever, it's getting harder and harder for our needs to be taken care of. So we may see more people pulling more money out of comic books, not because the comic book market's oversaturated or, the prices were it was pump and dump false manipulation or, the market ballooning and then popping and crashing, all of these things. No, not at all. It's these unforeseeable circumstances that are now allowing or forcing us to be in a situation where we have to be tight with our money. Yeah, I know a few people who took their stocks and put it back into gold. So, taxes are a whole another issue, and that's another thing right now that what's happening with the stock market is interest rates and stuff. That's not applying to comic books, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Taxes now, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other conversation. I won't really get into taxes, but folks got to eat. That's right, Kenneth. So this means that we could still see some future dips. We could definitely still see some future dips over the next year, 2 years, simply because of the economy and not because of comic books at all. So, say you're looking at, I don't know, just say you're looking at a nice Bronze Age key, a Bronze Age Marvel key. Maybe there's not a lot of like movie spec around it. Maybe it's just a solid book. Maybe it's a Wolverine key. I don't know, something. I mean, there's always spec around the X-Men right now, especially because they're going to show up at some point. But you got a book, right, that was sitting at about $1,000 value about 6 to 8 months ago, kind of at the peak, right? Now it's back down around 750. And say, okay, I think it's a good time to buy. It peaked up, but it's been dropping, and maybe it's kind of leveling out a little bit. I think I'm going to put the money into it right now, and I'm going to buy this book. And you buy it for $750. What if over the next months that book drops down to about $600? You've lost money. Essentially, on the market, you lost money if you decided to sell it. No loss is realized until a sale is made. Keep that in mind. So you could look at that situation and say, well, man, maybe it wasn't such a great time to buy because I could have waited for it to drop, and I could have bought it for $100 or $150 cheaper. True. But it might still go back up. And that is the key that I think everyone should take into consideration. There's always going to be ebb and flow in any market. And you need to gauge that for every individual book that you are looking to buy. What is this book been doing on the market? What is it doing right now? What are the possibilities that can happen in the future? Because the future can never be predicted. And do I feel with confidence that it has potential to increase in value from my purchase price, even if I still see some future dips? Let me give you all an indicator of how you guys can do this fairly without kind of being extremely risky in your purchasing decisions. I look at it, I'll call it the pre-COVID floor. The pre-COVID floor is what I would use to gauge if it's a good time to buy a key comic or not. Norn Rad, what's going on? Yeah, that's true, JLS too. Yeah, people panic, and it's good. It's never good to panic. Now, before I talk about key comic floor, because I saw JLS's peak heel, what's going on? I saw JLS's comment. I just lost about 15% of all my investments that I have in the market, in the stock market. And guys, look, it's tough. And that's all I have. That's all I have anywhere. And I lost 15%, a little more than 15%. And I was freaking out. I was like, do I take my loss? Because I was like, I was in the green. I was like, I had like a 25% growth return on investment. I was above my initial investment by almost 25%. I lost all of that, and I was under by 15%. That's how bad the market was just recently. Now I'm only down about 4%. So it gained, and I'm glad I didn't pull it out. Now, who knows? Again, ebb and flow. You don't know. So don't panic ever. But to help you out when looking at your individual purchases, the pre-COVID floor. That was for stocks, Mark, if that's what you were asking. If you have a book like First Appearance of Cloak and Dagger, that's all I have here, guys. It's like, Wolverine Limited Series #1, or any First Appearance of Deathstroke, or just some random key book, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age, even modern, UF4. We'll throw UF4 in the mix. First Appearance of Deadpool, whatever it is. Any book that's over $100+, hundreds of dollars, maybe $1,000, couple $1,000 or more. Look at what it was going for in 2019 leading up into 2020. Simon, what's going on, Simon? Thank you. Look at what it was going for pre-COVID. Don't just look at the high. Look at an average. Find sales, monitor what it was doing. And then take that average fair market value pre-COVID and see what it was doing during COVID. See what it did in 2020. See if it really increased during that wave in early to summer of 2021. And see what it's doing now and see how it's dropped. And if it's flatlined and still hasn't hit below pre-COVID floor, I would say more likely than not, it will never return past pre-COVID floor. Now, again, I can't generalize, and this is just my personal opinion. But if it's already a key that had, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars of value pre-COVID, if it was healthy on the market, if it was doing this on the market pre-COVID, and if it did this on the market during COVID, and they did this a little bit, but it's kind of tailing off, and it's still above pre-COVID floor, I think it'll be an investment that'll continue to increase in value long term. So what's my point? Essentially, you can invest in that comic book right now with less risk of you losing money in the long term. All right? So, relating it to the question, is it a good time or a bad time to buy these types of comics? I still think it's a good time, as long as you are cautious and you do your homework and you study what it's been doing on the market. Whether it's for a raw book, whether it's for a high-grade raw, mid-grade raw, whether it's for a graded book. Okay? And every situation is going to be different. Every book is going to be different. Now, we're still going to keep on the investment side of it, but we're going to look at more maybe of a speculative investment. Is it a good or bad time to buy comics for speculative purposes? This isn't the long hold. This isn't the long hold. You have precedent for long hold keys, like I just talked about. Even if you take short-term dips here and there. Speculative investing. This is where I would throw the most caution out right now. I could say it's a good time to buy right now because essentially the speculative market is freaking absolutely nuts. It is. Even with people going back to work, spending money elsewhere, going on vacations, maybe pulling some money out of their comic book hobby, even with inflation, gas prices, war, all these things going on, for some reason, the spec market is freaking nuts. Yeah, Emmanuel, like on the Whatnot, I just did a video about that. No diss to Whatnot. This is individuals buying. What's going on, Dan? Futures in the comic market. Yes, I love it. So it's really a good time to buy into the spec hype. If you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing and you want to be a flipper. And I'm not saying that as a bad way. I mean, go ahead, right? I'm not hating. If you think that you can be ahead of the curve and get books that you could flip in the short term, the speculative market is absolutely nuts. I truly believe that we are at a height right now when it comes to spec buying and spec FOMO. I do. And I feel this way because I monitor the market every week. I watch the market every week. I study all the top 10s. Well, not all the top 10s, but I pay close attention to multiple top 10s. And of course, we use the cover price top 10 for comic book canon. And then I do my 1 week look back where I look at what it did a week later after they hit the top 10 list. Whether they're new books, new releases, or whether they're older books that just get, even if they're bronze or copper age books that get hype because of a trailer, especially a Marvel trailer. If you're ahead of the curve, boy, is there money to be made. If there's money to be made, because you literally, if you're on top of some of these books, you could buy some of these books for $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. And as soon as that announcement hits, or as soon as that trailer hits, you could sell them for 40, 50, 80, $100. Or if for some reason you were psychic and sent a $5 book in to get graded by CGC and it came back a 9.8, maybe you could sell that 9.8 for $500. That's how crazy people are reacting to speculation right now when it comes to live action. But because of this, it is very much, in my humble opinion, a bad time to buy if you're doing this for all the wrong reasons. Now, you may say, Chris, aren't you the one that sits and says there's no wrong way to collect comic books, right? There isn't, as long as you're being true to yourself as a collector. And while I don't think FOMO is a bad thing, while I think FOMO can be healthy and can be fun, I've talked about this, the psychological and socio-cultural aspects of FOMO, not just in comic books. The fight or flight traumatic mentality that we have for that fear of missing out and how we react to these things. These are, if we are getting caught up in all of these things on a very psychological and socio-cultural level of what we even accept culturally, you're doing it for the wrong reason. And this is where it becomes a bad time to buy. Because most people who get caught up in this, they're not proactive. They don't think beforehand. They're irrational. They're reactionary. And by the time you're in a situation where you're reactive and emotional, it's too late. We're on B, Mark. What's going on? It's too late at that point. And what I mean by it's too late, it's because you're one of those that hear the rumor, that hear the announcement, and then you try to go have to have it once the book spikes. And more often than not, right now, if you are doing that, you're going to take a loss, especially if you're looking for short-term gain. Now, I'll use a book like West Coast Avengers 45. I've been using that book a lot lately. Bearded One. I had Bronze Age Nerd and Como Comics on a show some weeks back, and I forget which one said this, but one of them said, I think it was Drew with Comos, but if it was Bronze Age, I apologize. But they were saying, you can buy a CGC 9.8 right now for as much as people were paying. For, what was it? Excuse me, man. Let me make sure I get this right. You could buy a CGC 9.8 right now for what people were buying for like raw copies during the hype. I mean, the book in a 9.8 hit over 1,500. And I believe it's lost at least, if not more, 50% of its value in a 9.8. So I don't know if I'm saying that right. I apologize, but how he broke down that it was just baffling. It was absolutely baffling. And it goes to show, and I watched it live. I watched it live that night because I stayed up till midnight. I stayed up till midnight to watch that episode where White Vision showed up. And I watched it live on eBay and Mercari. I watched the books go. And I watched the books increase from like a $15 book to a $150 book in a matter of hours. Actually, I think the highest one sold for $180, somewhere around there. In a matter of hours. It is always a bad time to buy a comic book if this is how you're reacting. Now, will West Coast Avengers ever, is it going to be something long term? I mean, I do believe that it is a book that after this crazy dip, it's gonna slowly do this, because you got to understand a few things for comic books. The number one thing the comic books have going for them as back issues on the secondary market is inflation. Inflation is always going to play a role. And it's always going to drive even random back issue books up. I mean, that's why you look at like books from the 80s now that aren't even keys. But if they're in decent fine to near mint shape, they're going to drive a more of a premium right now. And some of that has to do with inflation. Not all of it. But, and then there's higher demand as books age out. That's always a factor as well. So you consider just those two things alone. A book like West Coast 45 is going to gain some value in the long term, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But will it ever be what it's at its peak, especially in that 9.8? I don't know. I can't tell you. But you sure are taking a risk, right? And or if it gets to that point ever again, is it going to take you 20 years? Is it going to take you 20 years just for it to hit? And guess what? If it takes 20 years to get back to $1,800 in a 9.8, $1,800 in 20 years ain't $1,800 today. It's going to be worth less. $1,800 is going to be crap compared to $1,800 today because of inflation, because of the value of the dollar decreasing. Satari, what's going on? I do think White Vision's coming back too in the MCU, which I think is going to drive up the value again. But I'm just, this is all hypotheticals here, folks. Murfinator, what's going on, man? Dark Knight Jesse. Yeah. I do think, again, these are hypotheticals, guys. Right on, Dale. Right on. Hey, guys, Dale, if you guys aren't following Dale on IG, this as an artist myself, this guy's art is freaking amazing, impeccable. Absolutely. I love it. Okay, so basically, you got to be very careful if you're in the spec market as an investor, right? You're investing by speculating. There's a lot of risk involved. And what do I always say? You got to be willing to take the risk. And if you got money to blow and you got money to blow, fine, whatever. It is what it is. I don't. So that's why I stay away. But let me give you guys one tip. Just like I gave you a tip with, if you're in it for the long haul, and you're just looking at silver, bronze, copper age keys, look at the trend on the market, look at pre-COVID numbers and where that floor was and where you think a new floor is sitting. And then you can gauge if it's a good time to buy. If it doesn't go back down below that old floor, most likely it's probably still a decent time to buy, where you might see some short-term ebb and flow, but it's going to increase long-term. But let me give you some tips on if you're in the game for that short-term spec, right? And you're not just flipping and flipping and flipping. Get ahead of the curve by reading the comics, watching the movies, reading the comics, knowing the history of characters too. So that means going back to old comics and reading old comics. Use Marvel and DC Wiki. I mean, if you don't want to read all the comics, use the wikis. Watch YouTube videos. What is it? Comics Explains. Is that one where he dives into a lot of the comic books? Know what's going on out there. Read your previews magazines, folks. Because, and I've said this before, more often than not, as long as you're educated of what's going on and who these characters are, and you can watch the cinematic universe, you can read the comics and understand the comics to a certain degree, you could piece together what I'm all about spec. What should I buy? Let me give you an example. In 2018, when we knew we were having the Captain Marvel movie that came out in early 2019, when we knew Carol Danvers was happening, we had Infinity War. We already had the Nova Corps in 2014 with Guardians. But it was 2018, I believe, when I picked up my Nova #1, first appearance of Richard Rider. And I went on my channel before I was even taking my channel seriously. And I said, oh, it was that and Spider-Woman. I said 2 affordable Bronze Age keys that you can get now for a really good price, because these books are going to do something. And what did we just get yesterday? A Nova announcement. I haven't even checked the prices, but I'm sure Nova #1 is absolutely booming right now. So, do you wait till you hear that announcement, till you get that ping from Key Collector, till you see the YouTubers talking about it? Or do you know that, well, let's put 2 and 2 together. They're going cosmic. We already have the Nova Corps, who is a big player. I've been saying it with Quasar too. And I said it with Adam Warlock. So it's always a good time to buy speculative comics if you're speculating on characters that are solid characters that can have a big role in the universe that's already been building, but nobody's talking about them. Except for me. I told you. I tried to tell you. That's just the best advice that I can give you when it comes to spec. Now there's a key component here when answering this question that we're gonna end this on. But I'm going to bring up one more sub genre, so to say, of collecting to answer this question. You soggy old bimbo, what's going on? Okay, we're going to talk about graded comics now. Is it a good or a bad time to buy comics, graded comics? Segue into this. I have a lot of concerns with the graded comic market right now. I love the graded comic market. I think the graded comic market is going to be here forever as long as the comic book market is here. I think it's going to continue to evolve. I think it's still a baby, just being a little over 20 years old. I have a lot of concerns, though, especially for 9.8s. And I won't spend too much time talking about this because I talk about this a lot. I think it is a bad time to buy 9.8 comics. I do. I think it is a great time to send in 9.8 potential comics to CGC, CBCS, EGS, whatever. And then to sell them, I think it's a great time to send in your raw books to get 9.8s to go sell and make some money. I think it is an absolutely bad time to buy 9.8 comics. Why? Because, one, even though we saw some market cool off, market correction, whatever you want to call it, even in some of the 9.8s, obviously, the 9.8 market as a whole is still booming. Especially for books that get hype around them. If a book gets hype, people are going after those 9.8s like absolute crazy. You have a 9.8 that was selling for $80. You could have a comic book that was selling for maybe like $15 raw, $80 in a 9.8, $80, $90 in a 9.8. Overnight, the book goes up to $30 raw. But now people are paying $400 for a 9.8 of that same book. It's nuts. It is nuts. I don't feel investing in 9.8s right now is a good option because, one, for the short term, I believe that we could be hit with more economic hardship that affects how we spend our money on comics. And I think that's going to pull money out of the 9.8 market at some point, a little bit at least. And, the bigger the key, the less risk involved, sure. But even for decent keys that are valued anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000 in a 9.8, I'm very weary. Okay. I'm also weary about the influx of people sending in books. And I talked about this recently. What does that mean? What does the value of a 9.8 comic mean when looking at the census? So if there's 3,000 UF4s in 9.8 right now, and this is probably a bad example because UF4 was a book that's like that all black cover, came in poly bags. It's probably a bad example, but let's take a modern book like that that's booming. It's taking folks 6 months to a year to get their books back from CGC. What if 1,000 9.8s come back over the next 6 months? I mean, it's not hard to believe. And there's 1,000 more out there on the census. The grading industry has only been around for 22 years. And it's only been what it's really been for probably roughly 10 years, I think, when you bring in the competitive factors. More and more people continue to send in their books to CGC. And if there become more 9.8s out there on the market, that can hurt the value of those 9.8s. I agree, Tony. And here's the thing too, and I'll end on this note when it comes to the 9.8s. Real quick, unattributed. Keep in mind, unattributed though, these are what you speak of. Those prices, like you said, are essentials. So it's different because it's almost like the monopoly of gas and electricity and water. We have no say. There's no competition. We don't have it. If my water company raises rates, I can't just say, screw you, I'm going to the next one for a lower rate. There's none out there. Food, clothing, and shelter. Those essentials, toilet paper, they don't come back down because a new market equilibrium is set. They know that they can charge X amount and we're going to buy it. They know that now because we had to. So why bring it back down? The only way it would really come back down is if for some reason competitors got into a bidding war. And, when you talk about essentials, that's not going to happen because they're smart and they know that they're not going to do that. Comic books are not an essential, so there's way more volatility. But to finish what I was saying, Rich, I don't believe CGC's got a lot harder with grading because I got a 9.8 back that was no better than an 8.5. But that's just my personal experience. I think it differs depending on who it is. The influx of the 9.8s can affect the value of the book. But to what Tony had just said too, I don't think this is going to happen soon. But we talk about the transparency and the validity of the grade. And more as the price differentiation between a 9.6 and a 9.8 continues to separate itself so much, that 9.8 price is waving at the 9.6 price, doing this. Bye. Getting farther away. Oh. I think that can slap back to reality in a minute. Especially for books in the couple $100 to couple $1,000 range. Big keys, whatever, because you do have real investors. You got big money Wall Street investors going after the Superman ones, action ones, Batman ones, AF-15, Spider-Man ones, all those, especially in high grade. But when you talk about affordable keys that are from a couple hundred to a couple thousand, though, people are going to really, people can. I'm not going to say people are going to. If we don't get more transparency from the grading companies, and it starts with grading notes, if we don't at least get more grading notes to why your book is a 9.6 or a 9.4, not a 9.8, and you could buy a 9.6 for $200 when a 9.8 is going for $1,000, and you're looking at both books and you're like, what the hell is the difference? Other than in our mind, we blindly believe the sticker. So I got to buy the 9.8 for $800 more than I would on the 9.6. If we stop doing that and realize, look, there's no difference. People are going to start buying the 9.6s more. It could happen. It's a concern. Yeah, Connected Comics. That's ridiculous. 2 books out of 25 with grading notes. That's ridiculous. And I don't care if they were high grade. So yeah, Bitcoin and stocks are not commodities for sure. Swaggle, what's going on? I hear you, Swag man. Once you get the book, the having to have that high grade, at least for me, I'm with you on that. It's like I got my Fantastic 448 in a 3.0. I'm so good. And that book is like quadrupled in value since I bought it. So I didn't need to fork out thousands of dollars. Those are my concerns with the graded market. I think it's a good time. It's always a good time if you think you're getting deals. I think it's a good time to buy 9.6s. I think it's a good time to buy 9.6 comics. I think it's a bad time to buy 9.8s. That's just my opinion. I think there's a lot of value to be seen in 9.6s. I mean, there's a lot of value to be seen in any grade, just like Swaggle was just saying. All right. We're going to round this up, and I'm going to end this on this very important note, folks. This is very, very important. We talked about if it's a good time to buy if you're just wanting to read comics. We talked about is it good or bad time to buy if you're if you like collecting but enjoy the investment side, but you're in it for the long term, looking at, nice vintage type gold and silver, bronze age, copper age books. We talked about the speculation side of it, short term. And we talked about is it good or bad to buy into the graded market right now. I'm going to end it up. Apple, what's going on, Apple? I'm going to end on this note, summing this all up. The thing out of all those that I broke apart, out of all those different examples, it is never a good time if you don't have your heart in it. It is never a good time to buy comics if you don't have your heart in it. What's up, Johnny? Otherwise, why are you here? Why are you here? Does it, if I come back from CGC and I have a 9.8, signed by Todd McFarlane, 9.8 ASM 300, or I just found 50 copies of that new spec book for $1 each, and I'm going to flip them for $50 a pop. Not to say that's wrong for doing that, but I'm just saying, like, does doing those things fulfill something in you for status? Is it a status thing? Are you here for status? Is comic book collecting like you needing to have the fancy, like, Mustang with rims where you're peeling out in the high school parking lot, or you got to flaunt the fresh Jordans? And hey, nothing wrong with the nice Mustang or some fresh Jordans. I love me some fresh kicks, but I'm talking about the reason I buy fresh kicks because I'm an artist and I like style. I like feeling fresh. But do I buy fresh kicks for clout because it fulfills something to the world around me? Look at me, I'm cool now. You go and smoke weed because it's a cool thing to do, right? Are you a badass in high school? Do you bully other kids because of clout? I mean, there's so many things in life. Do we need status? Do we need validation? Comics should not be about validation, is my point. We should never use comics to feel validated. Whether it's we're doing it because we're just kind of cocky and arrogant and egotistical, or maybe because we're self-conscious and insecure, self-doubt. We want to feel a part of something. All of those things. It doesn't matter. Comics should not be about validating us. And that's why I always say, like, people look at my collection and are like, oh man, I wish I had that collection one day. I only have 2 short boxes. I'm like, no. What's in your 2 short boxes is special to you. And don't compare my collection to yours. If your collection is as special it is to you as mine is to mine, then yours is just as good as mine is, if not better. Right? So it's never a good time to buy unless you got love and heart into this hobby. And if you do, you just got to go back and sit back and look at all the aspects of the hobby, because I said this a million times. There's something in this hobby for everyone. There are so many things. And we go back to everything I talked about today. Reading stories, enjoying amazing artwork, having nostalgic collectibles, investment purposes, short-term, long-term, graded comics, superheroes, different genres. All of these things are great things of why we love comic books so much. And you always just have to keep your feet grounded in telling yourself, what am I in it for? Why do I collect comics? And what do they bring me to make me happy? Answer those 2 questions. And then you can go back to everything I said and ask yourself, is it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time to buy? Because it's going to boil down to each individual when you're faced with each situation in front of you. Patience. Educate yourself. Do your due diligence. And whatever decisions you make, hopefully they will be good ones. And that'll answer the question for you. Right? Right. All right, everyone. That is it. We're going to hang out for a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Just read through some more of these comments while we're still hanging out. And again, folks, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I would truly be humbled if you did. I appreciate you all for the continued support. I'm here almost every single day making content. Let's see what we got. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description below as well, folks. Find me on Whatnot. Huge sale 1 week from tonight. And remember, most of my stuff is available for buy it now, for you to buy it before we go live and before it hits the auction block. Where do I buy plastic short boxes? Mark D, you can check out bcwsupplies.com. That link's below as well, too. They have plastic storage boxes there. You can use my code JERNOS, JERNOS, and get 10% off of your order anytime you order from them. It doesn't expire. You can use the code as many times as you want. I would definitely check them out. If you spend a certain amount, you get free shipping, plus you get that 10% off by using Journos. Serge, yeah, you know I love the trade dresses, man. You know I do. Thank you, Spider Dude. Thank you, Tony. Tony Main. Yeah, Ron B, BCW. Guys, remember, if you guys, not all of my stuff is BCW. I say that. I buy E. Gerber stuff too. But I do buy a lot of BCW stuff. I just bought some more that's coming in the mail actually soon. But bcwsupplies.com, use the code JERNOS, guys. Save 10%. I mean, if you're buying supplies anyways, it saves you money. JERNOS, 10% off of any order as many times as you order. Oh, wait. Garfield is in Legions of Superheroes, bearded one? That's dope. Oh, Surge, absolutely. Yeah, any of that era, the early Bronze Age Amazing Spider-Mans have definitely been increasing in value recently. Why do you think 9.6 is so low compared to 9.8? It's all about perception. That's why. It's perception. I don't want to say it's an illusion or a delusion. I think that's harsh, but it's perception. It's perceived perfection, even though 9.8 isn't, but it's like, oh, it's the closest we can get to perfection. The majority of people don't care because, and it goes back to the chicken or the egg. Well, if we perceived it differently, it would make 9.6s more valuable, but we're not going to perceive it differently because 9.8s are more valuable and we want to go with what's more valuable. But if you don't switch the perception, nothing will ever change. Yep. It's the perception mixed with a sense of scarcity. Now, if that scarcity is a false scarcity or not, that's a whole other conversation. Elk, it does kind of look like that. I always thought it just said M. I never saw the E in it until I was a bit older. Yeah, flukes. I mean, it seems that way. 9.9s and 10s. Dan's on Tony tonight. Tony Sanders, guys. Check Dan out over there. Oh, Tony. Oh, thank you, Tony. Yeah, we are. Thank you so much, Tony. We are, for all my Patreon members, I'm trying to figure out how to do a monthly Q&A live instead of just doing the video, so I can just hang out with you guys live. But I gotta figure that out yet. What I'm thinking of doing is not even. I think I don't need to say it here, but I'm gonna be updating everybody on my Patreon. I do believe I found a way where we can do it privately, but I still don't know for sure. Fingers crossed. Bear with me, okay? Let's see. Excited about Moon Knight. Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for Moon Knight. I can't wait. We're less than a week away. Next Wednesday. Oh my goodness. I'm still excited for the Morbius movie, even though I'm not keeping my hopes high. I'm keeping my hopes like this. Like, okay, I just want to enjoy it. And I hope there's something that connects to the MCU in it. And, I was excited about the Miss Marvel trailer, even though I never was really too much into her comic books. I'm excited about it being something different. I'm excited about it all, guys. I am. I'm excited about Obi-Wan. I can't wait for that. My goodness, I can't wait for that. ASM Mob. Oh, man. Satori, that's amazing. Congrats on that pickup, guys. Pickup. So I was going to say congrats on that pickup, guys. All right, everyone. I am going to wrap up. I do want to remind you folks, just one more time, no comic book canon on Sunday. We're going to be live next Sunday again with an awesome show with another amazing giveaway for our 1K over there. And remember, guys, check out my videos. Hit the notification bell when the videos pop up this coming week. We're going to be giving away. Thanks to Dan, who's in the house, for donating this. One or two of the big grand prizes. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. First appearance of Cloak and Dagger 9.6 CGC Signature Series, signed by Ed Hannigan. Look out for those videos next week, folks, okay? And again, check out the links below. You guys can join and become a YouTube member for only $1.99 a month. You get early access to a lot of speculation videos. I drop random member tips here and there. I also do random giveaways as well. We're going to be doing a giveaway next week for my YouTube members. I just haven't picked out the prize yet. Patreon is below. That's $3.99 a month. Early access, random tip posts, as well as video shout outs, of course. And we have our monthly Q&A. I also take Patreon suggestion videos. By the way, guys, I am still working on a massive documentary video that I've been working on for about 8 months now. Now, of course, I haven't been working on it that whole time. I was displaced from my home for 2 months. I had COVID for a month, but it's been a lot of work. A lot of work that the video is still going to be released because it was a Patreon suggestion. I will be running the Patreon giveaway next week. Oh, no, not that print. That's my print. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to tease you. The Gwenum and the first Black Winter Thor number 5. Third print. So there's that. You guys can check out my official merch. That link is below as well. And, of course, again, 1 week from tonight, I will be live on Whatnot with a bunch amazing books to sell. Everyone, thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. I really appreciate you all. I hope you all have a good weekend. I will see you in the videos. I'll see you next week on Whatnot on Friday, and that next Sunday, April 3rd, on the Canon. Peace.